Good morning and good afternoon to all the attendees. Welcome to 𝐕𝐵 Masterclass. Our topic for today is 2022 Trends in Integrated Invoice-to-Cash Automation. And we have with us our Masterclass speaker and Strategic AR Advisor at 𝐈𝐧𝐭, John Salick. John, welcome to the show again, and looking forward to your very informational session again for today.
All right, thank you, Akshay. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And another interesting program for this master class, where we're kind of coalescing here a trend, a movement, if you will, regarding automation in the invoice-to-cash business process. And it's been gathering steam for the last few years, particularly as artificial intelligence applications have become more common and more widespread in their application. So we thought we'd address it as such, as a trend, and talk about the impact it's having on companies who invest in this technology and use it to improve their invoice-to-cash process. So, quick, what is invoice-to-cash? Well, it's that process that starts when an invoice is issued to a customer and ends when the payment is received and applied to that open invoice. So, typical process theory, you have a beginning, you have an end. Invoice-to-cash. Very important process for companies, though. Cash from receivables is, for most companies, the single largest cash inflow they get on a regular basis. Now, they may borrow a large amount, and for a one-time inflow, that's very large. But for day by day, week by week, month by month, the cash flow in comes from receivables, which are generated by the invoice-to-cash process. And of course, any bottleneck, any inefficiencies can disrupt that flow. And you want an end-to-end process, and you want the automation to mimic the invoice flow. So it's a critically important process, especially for cash inflows. So we're talking about integrated invoice-to-cash applications. I mean, clearly you can buy a one-off application here and there, and at a particular point in time, at your company's particular situation, that may make sense. But historically, a lot of invoice-to-cash operations have been done manually, semi-manually, Excel aided, if you will, and still a pretty high proportion of manual work. So it's a fertile field for automation, and of course, integrated automation multiplies the benefits that comes from it. So when we talk about integrated invoice-to-cash applications, they are a fairly new wave spurred by the success in using artificial intelligence. And they do everything you want an application to do, right? High efficiency, enhance the customer experience, and given this process, increase the cash flow. Integrated applications per Gartner use a single platform with the automation and also has predictive capabilities to aid the hyper efficiency that can be achieved. So what are some of the broader trends? Now, later in our discussion today, we'll talk about how this new technology helps specific operations within the invoice-to-cash process. But if we step back, go a little higher level and say, all right, what are the trends that are affecting this vital business process? And it has grown rapidly, been very, very successful in helping companies. You know, the key element here is the integrated solution. Just like you want your end-to-end process to be integrated, run smoothly, you want your application support to do the same thing, to maximize the efficiency. Another hallmark of this new ITC technology is the interaction and collaboration with your customers. A lot of self-serve opportunities for the customer, which I think you'll agree ends up being faster for the customer rather than calling, waiting to speak to someone, talking to someone. There's a lot of opportunities on portals and all for a customer to go to the portal and get what they need. The technology continues to improve and expand more and more capabilities. And that's because we've gone from automating manual tasks like read data and key punch data, which, you know, basically robotic process automation has automated. And with AI, though, you're moving into operations that emulate human thinking and learning and get you into more operations that can be automated. A good example of this is the credit application process, which we'll talk about. And certainly the expansion geographically, which is a good thing as well. So what are the key components of what we call integrated invoice-to-cash applications? Well, they kind of mirror the sub-processes of invoice-to-cash, you know, generating the invoice and delivering it, automating collections. There's always too many accounts that need contact and not enough time to contact them. Well, the automation helps. Automation solves that problem. Customer payments, accepting payments in a variety of modes. And the most important mode is the one the customer prefers, right? So you want to be in a position where you can accept those different types of payments. Cash app automation, you know, the auto cash hit rates have really improved with these AI-driven applications, hitting as high as 95%, which is, you know, which is great when you think about impact on productivity. And you're automating 95% of the cash app process. That's productivity. Deductions and disputes automation. Clearly, there's always a role for human review and thinking in disputes and deductions. I mean, the basic purpose of investigating a dispute is to answer the question, is the customer right or is the customer wrong? If the customer's right and took a deduction, then we'll just assure credit. No problem. If they're wrong, we want to get back to them quickly and document why they're wrong and why they should pay the amount they deducted. And certainly speed is a direct predictor of recoverability here. And AI makes a big contribution here. And then credit monitoring, you know, understanding the credit risk in your customer base and then managing it and quite honestly restricting it where necessary. So these 6 components, all critical to a successful invoice-to-cash process. And when integrated, both as a process and as an automation enabling that process, is when you get the best return. Let's look at these 6 sub-processes that we just discussed in a little more detail here. Customer invoicing automation. It all starts with the invoice, right? When you issue an invoice to a customer, you're never 100% sure that if it will be paid. And you're certainly unsure as to when it will be paid. If you don't send an invoice to a customer, there's no uncertainty. You will not be paid. So that sounds like a little wise guy saying, but it's the basic fundamental here. You know, get that invoice to them. All right, makes sense. What's the big deal? Well, get it to them fast. And here again, get it to them in the format they require, via the mode they prefer, and certainly displaying the invoice, the information on the invoice that they require, such as their purchase order number. So, you know, we go from, well, just get the invoice out fast to now get it out fast, get it to them in the format they want, with the information they want, and in the mode they want. Very few customers want paper invoices anymore. You know, they may put up with them, but they don't want paper invoices. They want them to arrive some sort of electronic means. If they have a vendor portal, they want them posted to that portal. They don't want to deal with the paperwork. So when we talk about customer invoicing with the new 𝐈𝐧𝐯 technology, it accomplishes those things. It compiles the invoice fast, pulling data from your ERP, formulates the invoice, delivers it fast in the format required with the information required. And that will shorten the total invoice-to-cash cycle and shorten the time it takes to get paid. Certainly an accurate invoice delivered in the form your customer requires will get paid faster than one that is not. What's next? Collections. Collections. Necessary function. For a lot of companies, it takes up a fair amount of time, resource, and people, and absolutely necessary to maintain the cash flow. But yet, no matter how many people you have in collections and what processes you've set up, you never have enough time to contact all the customers that really should be contacted. So what happens? The ones with the smaller balances don't get contacted, or the ones that are maybe 15 days, 20 days past due don't get contacted, in favor of those that have customers that have larger receivable amounts that are more past due. So what the 𝐈𝐳𝐯 technology for collections can do is, first of all, give your team a total view of all the AR out there owed by all the customers. Automates prioritization and enabling very sophisticated prioritization, not just biggest amount to lowest amount, or greatest amount over 60 days past due to lowest amount over 60 days past due. You can work a number of parameters in there. And smart prioritization is what really drives greater effectiveness and greater productivity. If you have a big customer, owes you a lot of money, and they always pay 5 days late, probably doesn't pay to contact them until they're 10 or 15 days late. You know, and those are some of the things you can build into this prioritization. And also, for all those smaller customers that you never have time to get to, you can now get to them with a much improved dunning process. Rather than just sending them an email, you know, our records show you have $17,000 over 30 days past due. Email is delivered, but it can engage in a fairly sophisticated dialogue to try to secure a promise to pay. So you have $17,000. Email says you have $17,000 over 30 days past due. Can we expect payment tomorrow? Answer comes back, no. Can we expect payment the day after tomorrow? No. Can we expect payment this week? Can you commit to make payment next week? And for a certain number of customers, eventually they're going to wear down and say, yeah, okay. We'll pay you Thursday. And then, of course, the automation sets up a promise to pay in your collection system. Boom. So it's done. And certainly the customers can still ignore these emails and still say no. But, if you're talking about a fairly large population and you get a quarter or a third of them to pay reasonably quickly after they receive these emails, that's a big improvement. And by repeating this every month, you tend to wear some down after a while. Oh, geez. I'm going to get one of these emails. I might as well pay on time or close to on time. So, and when you have digital AI-powered digital assistants like 𝐈𝐧𝐯𝐶, they actually chat with the customer. Yeah, I'll pay. I'd like to pay with a debit card or a payment card or something. Well, Gia will work with the customer and direct them to how to make that happen. So can be a huge boost to collections. Customer payments. Well, this is about customer preference, right? Just like we said with invoicing. One of the best things you can do is deliver the invoice in the mode that your customer prefers. And of course, with all the required information. Well, same thing with payments. Best thing you can do is accept the payment in the mode that your customer wants to pay in. I mean, you're asking somebody to do something. Why not make it as easy as possible for them to do it? And AI can help that by accepting and processing a wide range of electronic card payments, mobile payments, things like that. So it can lead you into a much greater acceptance of digital payments and a greater customer satisfaction, and for some customers, earlier payments. Cash application. Now, this is a function that has probably benefited the most from automation within the I2C spectrum. And that's reflected by the fact that auto cash has been around 40, 50 years, if not more, and has steadily improved, or at least the capability has steadily improved through the years as the technology's improved. And right now, technology is really good to take customer remittances, be able to read them. Remember, they all come in different formats, and, forms and modes and things like that. And AI can sort through it and learn by customer where on that remittance advice they place the information that's needed to apply the payment. And then they apply the payment. And we're seeing auto cash hit rates upwards to 95%, which is fabulous. Fabulous. I mean, I can't think of another function where you can automate 95% of the transactions of the operations. Now, getting to 95%, doesn't happen on day 3, but you keep working with it, and as the artificial intelligence learns the individual customer remit advice, the hit rate goes up. Plus, it accommodates multiple currencies, multiple languages. Big help if you're engaged in overseas business and you're receiving payments in many different currencies. Another one Another sub-process where the I2C technology advances has helped is deductions and disputes. If you look at deductions and disputes, there's almost 3 segments to the processing of them. Remember, you need to research and resolve. Is the customer right or is the customer wrong? So the first stage is setting it up. Customer paid an invoice $822 short. Well, we got to set up that $822 deduction, assign a reason code if available, and then route it to the appropriate person. So for example, if a customer pays an invoice $822 short because of sales tax, well, you want to set up that deduction. You want to find out that it is sales tax is the reason for the short payment. And then you want to route it to tax department, right? Sales tax. And that setup and routing is an important first step. Needs to be done fast, needs to be done accurately. Then you've got a human element in there, research and resolution. Somebody's got to look at it and say, yeah, the customer's right. No, customer's wrong. We need to charge it back. And then the third stage is finalizing. The customer's right, which is the case 95% of the time. A credit needs to be issued. That credit needs to be applied to the short payment, matched, cleared, swept from the AR ledger. If the customer's wrong, it needs to be routed to the assigned collector with full information so that collector can explain to the customer nicely, you're wrong and you need to pay this back. So the AI automation really helps with the first and the third step. And it facilitates the second step, the research step. So also with various portals, customers can register disputes, can get copies of invoices, can get a lot of information they need to help them pay. So this is another one, another application where the new technology is really helping, particularly if you're a company that gets a lot of deductions. And then we come to credit monitoring. And let's just take for a moment the process of onboarding a new customer or doing the credit investigation to determine, are you going to issue credit? And 2, what's that credit limit going to be? Well, that involves gathering all sorts of inputs and data, credit bureaus, references, banks, you name it, gathering it all together, validating their incorporation, their legal name, their ownership, their tax status, just a lot of different elements. And then when it's all together, typically a human being would look at it and say, okay, pretty strong here, pretty weak here. Here's the credit limit. And then if it's a large credit limit, probably needs 1 or 2 more signatures to approve it. Well, with AI, particularly digital assistants, all that can be done. All that procuring of information, gathering, validating sales tax numbers, licenses, all that stuff can be done up front before a human being expends 1 minute of labor on it. Boom. And then you can take it a step further and have it, the AI can calculate a credit score. And you can take it even a step further. Input the monthly sales requirements, look at the credit score, and suggest a credit limit. Then the human being steps in, looks at all this stuff, says, oh, okay, good. Raise it, lower it, good as is, approved. So a huge labor savings there, huge automation content. So those were 6 functions where the new ITC technology, AI-powered, embodied in digital assistance, has really helped the invoice-to-cash process. Here's a couple case studies. This first one is just on one sub-process, the credit monitoring and credit vetting process for one of our clients here. And they were getting a very large number of credit apps in every month. And they were overwhelmed. It was a manual process, a lot of waiting time, right? Request information, wait for it. And when it comes in, collate it with the other information, build it up, and then finally you're able to act on the credit app. They were getting, hundreds of credit apps a month, and it was taking them 2 weeks to process. That's an awful long time. Customers are going to look for other suppliers. Plus, you're losing revenue. If you can turn that around in a couple of days, chances are you could be selling and shipping them in the first week instead of the third week. So this company implemented IA technology that we discussed for credit applications, and they got the 2 weeks down to 1 or 2 days. And they're able to accommodate much higher volumes. Another client, medical product suppliers, similarly, and they implemented the new 𝗕𝗃 technology for deductions, auto cash, and the collections. And look at the results. Deduction cycle time 5 days, auto cash hit rate up 30 percentage points, DSO down 7%. So we've mentioned this as we've gone along, but what are the benefits? Well, first of all, enhanced effectiveness. You can really start to approach world-class AR performance with this technology. Significant cost savings in terms of staff, bad debt, funding of AR. With interest rates going up, you don't want to be borrowing a lot of money. If you can improve your cash flow from receivables, you can pay down some of that short-term debt and save a lot of money in interest. Improve customer experience. Their dealings with you are faster and more accurate, fewer errors. So what's not to like, right? So what's our conclusion here? Technology-driven process improvement has now taken the place of the pure process improvement of the past. It used to be just Lean, Six Sigma, re-engineering, all those process improvements focus really on process. Now, given the cost effectiveness of these new AI-driven technologies, it's really technology-driven process improvement. And it really comes down to artificial intelligence delivering the efficiency, the hyper-efficiency in the 6 processes we just discussed. And more importantly, it's never been easier, faster, or more cost-effective to automate ITC operations. The implementation timelines are not punishing. The cost is surprisingly affordable. And it's a good time to consider the automation. Your questions.
Thank you, John, for a beautiful presentation. We do have some questions here. The first question is, what are the major drivers of a high ROI for today's technology tools for the I2C process?
Well, it's primarily cost reduction. By automating a high percent of manual operations, you're reducing the need for people. And when you take people out of the process, you reduce the cost of the process. Now, in today's labor market, you're probably not going to let those people go. You're going to redeploy them somewhere else or keep them in your department, but to do some more analytical problem-solving improvement operations, which your folks will find much more enjoyable, challenging than extracting data from a document and key punching it. So that's where you get a big payback on your investment.
What are the three major elements of hyper-automation?
Well, we talk mostly about the impact here today, but there's another school of classification, if you will, that would break that down into intelligent document processing, which extracts data from unstructured sources and puts it into a structured data file for further processing by your ERP, by robotic process automation, by AI.
All right. What's your opinion on how much of a credit vetting process can be automated today?
I'd say 80 to 90%, because remember, the bulk of the work is tracking down all these inputs you need, requesting them, getting them, verifying them. All that work is the bulk of the work. And, the actual credit decision for a credit manager that's got some decent experience isn't that difficult and doesn't take that long. It's gathering the information required to make that credit decision, which can be automated.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think we are already way beyond our time, a few more minutes. Thank you very much, John, for taking those questions. And I also thank all the audience and attendees over here for joining us today. If you do have any questions, do send us to info@𝐈𝐧𝐯𝐬.com, and looking forward to see you for our next masterclass session. The topic is how to optimize deal value in mergers and acquisition integrations with order-to-cash automation. This is going to be on Thursday, 26th of May at 8 a.m. Pacific. Looking forward to see you all, and thank you very much, John.
My pleasure, and thanks everyone for attending.
Thank
So
you.
long.